How is it going, everybody? Excuse me. Circle on up, form the mosh pit. If you'll give me a moment, I want to share a story with you. Young kid getting a drum set at age 13. His favorite music at the time, which was, so far removed from the happy-go-lucky churchy music that he listened to when he'd be driven to school, in junior high every day, was Linkin Park. I know a lot of people make fun of that for some reason, but that is what I listened to. That's what got me into a lot of the music that I even knew about. Because it was from Linkin Park with their, Meteora and, oh my gosh. I keep thinking Paper Cut. That's not what it is. Hybrid Theory. Hybrid Theory era. Oh my gosh. That era that I learned about Pillar, Disciple, Decipher Down, all these other Christian bands that had similar, musical style, but had a bit more of a positive message. Because at that point in time, I listened to Linkin Park because I felt like I could relate to what they talked about. And I felt like, here's a band that actually talks about pain. Fantastic. Neither Stephen Curtis Chapman or Amy Grant are doing that. Not to say that's a problem, and I'll talk more about that later. But as I'm listening to all these other bands, I'm starting to realize, okay, there's other options out there. There's options that talk about positive things, or at least it has a positive spin when they talk about pain, right? And then it has a little more intensity, which is more what I'm looking for, and especially with the drums. I want to start hammering some stuff. So then there is a few Christian music publications that come out. I can't remember. One of them might have been called Plugged In, something like that. I don't know if any of these publications are still around anymore. But they, through a very colorful lens of, pictures to follow different spreadsheets and stuff I liked at the time. At the time I was thumbing through the manual of Halo, that a buddy of mine had on the bus rides to school when I was still taking the bus. That was a whole different story. And I liked checking out new stuff and seeing what is out there. I was just becoming aware of the whole world out there that wasn't Amy Grant. Not any disrespect to her, just saying. Wasn't really my cup of tea. So then I find out about, bands that they talk about, like Avenged Sevenfold and a few different bands like that, and then what the Christian alternatives might be. Okay? So that's when I found out about, some of the bands I talked about. But then also in one of those magazines, the main topic of discussion was As I Lay Dying. And they did a really good job sort of bringing us along very gently, like, okay, yeah, I know this looks scary. I know this looks a little weird. They got, long hair. They look really serious. They got black nail polish. There's songs like Bury Us All, An Ocean Between, Nothing Left. There's skulls on the albums. Okay, don't be scared. Let's see what they're about. I think that was a pivotal point in my life where I learned to look at things that I didn't understand. Something that for some reason a lot of adults out there just don't care to do. They will have no idea what a group of people are, what a concept is, what a certain show is, what a certain game is, or music style. They'll know nothing about it, but darn it if they'll have opinions about it. Normally in how they don't like it and they think it's stupid, and then they wonder why people get mad at them online. Fantastic, buddy. Anyway, side rant. I decide, well, I want to know about this. What is this about? And around that time, I think I was working at a camp, and I watched the music video for Nothing Left. And that exploded my brain like you wouldn't believe. Young me playing the drums immediately knew I wanted a double bass pedal. And in hearing the dissonant but really introspective lyrics on the song, I haven't even listened to that song in years, but I think it goes, "This world was not worthy, but how could I call us unfaithful? Every promise was fulfilled." Something about an open grave. And for those gasping for their last breath, we cannot hide, there's nothing left. I thought that was so cool. And with time, I grew to be able to kind of pick apart what they say in those songs, be able to train my ear for, through all the growling and all that. Now, at this point in time, granted, because my parents listened to a lot more conservative, relaxed, casual music, we had some discussions about whether or not it was okay for me to listen to this stuff. My parents' main contention was, well, God is a God of order. Why would he be okay with this really loud, angry music? Well, if you don't understand much about how that genre works, sure, that's exactly how it sounds. I get it. I mean, to be fair, if we want to start splitting hairs, nobody understands what someone's saying in opera unless you look it up, right? And there are plenty of classical songs that are very all over the place and meant to be, a little dissonant, but we're not going to argue about whether or not it's disorderly. Also, if you actually look at guitar and drums and stuff like that, those guys are playing in tune. They're playing with timing. There's actually a lot of intricacies in the guitar. It's just at a tone that you might not like, and then you don't like the screaming. That's another reason how I was shaped to be the kind of person that goes, okay, let's logically actually validate our arguments here instead of just going with the emotions. You don't have a problem with, or you just don't understand this genre and then you don't like the screaming. That's different than it being a God, something that doesn't honor God and actually is a bad thing. That's a little bit different. Okay? Now, not to disparage my parents on that, because we kind of ended up having a ceasefire about that a few years ago. We're like, okay. And I think actually, thanks to Periphery doing their song Godlike, I actually was able to kind of show my folks like, hey, I mean, look at how intricate this guitar is. And they're like, wow, that's really amazing. And I'm like, that's what metal guitar is like. Okay. So anyway, off my soapbox with that. Going back to As I Lay Dying. I listened to An Ocean Between Us, and then I check out The Powerless Rise when I was at a junior college. Found YouTube then, so I'm just scrolling through all the recommendations like you wouldn't believe. And actually, a buddy of mine gave me a list of different metalcore bands to listen to. So I find out about, some of the heavier sides of stuff. I know they're not metalcore, but Job for a Cowboy, Entombment of a Machine was one of my favorite songs. I loved it. I loved all the pig squeal stuff. I loved all the, the blast beats and all that sort of stuff. And then I find The Powerless Rise by As I Lay Dying. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. I think at the time I was kind of going more towards the metalcore side of things. Parkway Drive, August Burns Red, which was a whole different thing. That became my favorite band for the longest time. And it actually was the first band that I ever bought all their music on iTunes, even their first initial mixtape. But to speak about iTunes real quick, I found out about Becoming the Archetype through a little snippet on iTunes. And my friend, who knew that I played the drums, specifically with double bass, he said, hey, you need to check this out. It's like the fastest double bass pedal I've ever heard in my life. I think it was the song Physics of Fire, but it was off their album Physics of Fire. So, one of those albums. And I was floored. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then I learned that with a lot of their music, especially Becoming the Archetype, they blend a lot of different stuff. The very first song, and this was back when you buy albums, and I bought albums. I love buying albums. It's fun, I remember the very first song, it had like a harpsichord type thing, one of those small little pianos. Da 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 da, and then the singer comes in, yeah, and then it just da 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 da. And in that song in particular, I learned doing things off timing. You go da 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 ka da 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 ka do do ka da. Learning a little bit more from the drums, right? I check out Shadows Are Security. I think I bought that album. Yeah. I looked at Frail Words Collapse. I wasn't really that interested in that, but I thought, hey, I really like this band though. They're really, really cool. I don't remember where I was when I missed Awakened in 2012 because I was at college at the time. I remember, yeah. Anyway, that was a whole different thing. So Awakened, wasn't aware of that because I had gone into other bands. I think I was more into August Burns Red at the time. But this, As I Lay Dying was the band that got me into all the music that I like now. If I didn't know about As I Lay Dying, I wouldn't have found out about August Burns Red. And then from there, I wouldn't have found out about like the metalcore electronic side of things, like uh, The Devil Wears Prada, which took me into Icy Stars, Attack Attack, We Came as Romans. I mean, all these different bands I would have never known about if I wasn't introduced to by As I Lay Dying. Now, I don't exactly remember when they broke the story about Tim Lambesis trying to off his ex-wife through a hitman and all that controversy. But I remember immediately being confused. And I was like, well, I don't understand this or know all the information, so I don't even know what to think. Which is another viewpoint that I realized I established back then. I don't jump into things without knowing all the information. I remember a YouTuber, Pro Jared. Some allegations came out about him. He was dropped from his associations with Game Grumps. He lost sponsorships. People deleted videos where he was a part of those. The whole internet turned around and said, frick you, you're a horrible person, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I remember talking to some people on Twitter about that back when it was still Twitter. And I was like, I don't really have all the information, so I don't know what to believe. And they go, well, you're siding with this horrible, awful person. You are approving of this horrible type of behavior. And I'm like, I don't have all the information, buddy. 3 months later, he comes out and he has all the receipts. They were lies. I wanted to turn around to those people and go, what do you think about me now, huh? Where's your issues now? So, to a similar vein, I look at Tim Lambesis and I thought, okay, I don't understand what's going on, but I want to know. This doesn't seem like what we've been, the types of lyrics and the type of message that we've been talking about so far. I'm not seeing that same kind of guy in this type of situation. Turns out he did do that, though. And I didn't even really know what to say at that point. I just kind of backed out. I'm like, well, okay, there's other bands that I like their style a little bit more also. I think I'll just listen to them then. And then in light of the most recent stuff that's been going on, them coming back together, they formed a new album. Band members kept dropping out to the point where it was just Tim. And then the fans came in saying, we'll support you. Don't worry about this. You're fine. I look at guys like Tank the Tech and Nick Nocturnal that talked about this. And they were saying that basically, well, it seems like it's kind of obvious, even if the original band members aren't talking about their experience, they are intimating, I don't like being in this band anymore. It's kind of going against my morals and my feelings about a good work environment, etc., etc. And Tim's the only one not really talking. And people are just coming to his aid saying, well, doesn't matter what happened, I support you, which I would certainly hope that I never have fans like that. If I do something messed up, I want y'all to turn on me. Like, for real. But one of the conclusions they had was, I don't think this band is ever going to fail. Because it is one of the biggest metalcore bands, really, really prominent in a lot of different scenes. And I know that Tim's always going to have support. And I find that a little scary when an entity is so big. If you're not paying attention to the very fine details, which not every fan is going to do because you're just paying attention to what they produce, right? Then a lot of people might not even know what's going on behind the curtain. I think about Mr. Beast as a great example. I remember going to bat for that POS for the longest time because I kept thinking, well, he's doing all these good things for other people. I don't think anyone's going to mind if he's filming them while they fix their site or give them school materials when they don't have the money to buy their own stuff. I don't think they're going to care because they're appreciative of what this person's doing. And then all the other stuff come down. And then I was just on, browsing the internet and it pops up one of his latest videos that he did just a little bit ago. And there he is smiling like nothing happened. And I'm like, wow, you are literally at a position where most of your fans don't even know what's going on. And in a similar vein, As I Lay Dying, this is going to be a split. You're going to get the people who know, and you're going to get the people that don't know. I'll be checking out their album Through Storms Ahead, because I'm curious. You know, I checked out Shaped by Fire and I was like, okay, cool. These guys are back. That's awesome. And I read something else that said something to the effect of, you know, Tim basically brought his group back together because I saw Wage War, I think it was, when the band initially split. And then he was like, hey, I'm sorry. Let's bring it back together. Let's shake on this. And I was like, okay, cool. So as much as it's disappointing that, you know, since 2019, you know, we've had all this other stuff come up, I'm not going to assume that none of As I Lay Dying mattered. I'm not one of those people. They still did shape a lot of my viewpoints and a lot of my vision about what I love in heavier music. I'm still going to remember their lyrics and think, wow, those were good stories, because it still is. But the fact that Tim is just going off on this path, I didn't ever want to see that happen for him. I really hoped that it was a moment where literally any bad thing could have happened to him and just made him lose himself and go, I'm going to take out my wife. And I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to sit there and be like, well, if I was married, I would never, because I'm not. And that's not a perspective I can draw from. I would hope that we stop doing that, speaking from experience that we never have. I don't know how that helps anything at all in the conversation, but I know a lot of people do that. Anyway, though, I'm going to be checking out their next album, even though I guess all the members who formed it are not in it anymore, so it's going to be a little weird. And then I'm just going to pray for them. Seriously. I believe that that is what brings back a lot of people anyway, you know? And I believe that the power of Jesus can overstretch any issues of anyone's mental illness or whatever other things that Tim struggles with. I believe in redemption. I truly, truly do. I just wanted to let you know how As I Lay Dying did really affect my growth into where I am now. And that's all I got to say about that. Thanks for watching, I guess. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.